Hello, my name is Shelby Baldock. You may know me from nothing in existence because you have no idea who I am. And I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't even heard the first episode of this show. This is Buffet, episode deux. So yeah, I'm Shelby Baldock, and over here with 10 times the amount of hair is Patrick Churvis.
Hi.
So on this episode, we talk about it's the second episode. You probably still don't know how this works. So basically, we entertainingly ramble about and muse about our lives, things that we do, movies that we see, food that we eat, and we sort of it's a big smorgasbord of things that we are interested in, but mainly we spend some time talking about random things and what we've recently seen, and then the latter half of this episode will be dedicated to two relevant and related films that we've seen recently, and this week is the new film Your Name, the Japanese anime, and the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away.
Yeah.
And so, you got anything?
That's it. They're two anime movies, and we don't watch a lot of anime, so this will be kind of an interesting episode. Hopefully, we get to talk about it in terms that people will understand.
Or care about,
because literally we don't know the history of anime. We don't know any of that.
I do know that from the Miyazaki, the Studio Ghibli documentary about him and stuff. That it's called In the Land of Dreams and something else.
Yeah.
That he makes ramen for everybody while they're finishing up the animation.
So here we go, episode 2 of Buffet.
Yep. Here's a question I had. Here's a question I thought of today. Tell me what you think. What do you think actual Greeks think of Greek life?
I don't even know. What is Greek life?
Fraternities, sororities.
Oh! I thought you actually meant people from Greece.
Yeah, I'm saying, what do you think Greeks think of Greeks?
Oh, okay. I get you now. I get you. I don't know. That's a weird thing that like Americans have adopted. You know, what a weird fucking thing.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know any of the history of generally fraternal organizations except for the Order of the Eastern Star, which, let's not get into that. But I mean, I know that fraternities and sororities and stuff have been around. Well, no, sororities, I don't know how long each of them have been around, but I don't know.
I know jack shit about fraternities, sororities. I don't know anything about them. They're stupid. Okay. I remember, I think I've been to maybe a couple like frat parties, and I'm just like disgusted.
I went to one frat party in my life, and it was, there was a band playing, and they had an ice sculpture of a penis. It was a giant sculpture of a penis, and they made the lead singer drink milk through it.
That's a weird thought. That is a weird thought.
But what do you think?
Because I don't know anything. Seriously, I know nothing about the whole Greek
But if
thing.
a Greek tourist comes to America, and somebody says, hey, you want to go to this Greek party? And they're like, I don't understand. A party of other tourists or immigrants? And they get there. Do you think that there is some crossover in the personalities between Greeks and Greeks?
I don't know. First of all, I don't know much about people from Greece.
They're in debt.
And I don't know. Yeah, that's true.
Don't they like to party? Italians like to party.
I guess. I mean, but they do it in like a tasteful way.
How tasteful? I mean, what are you talking about?
I don't know. I just feel like we're just like so... Americans are just so distasteful when it comes to like parties and what we do for fun. It's just so like obscene.
But see, that's why what you do is
I
you
feel
just
like if you're European, you have some kind of class, just some kind of instinctual class when it comes to just doing everything.
you lived in Europe,
That's true.
so tell
Yeah,
me
and
how much class is there?
I don't know. I just feel like hanging out in the backyard in the sun with a glass of wine and a plate of cheese.
In Texas?
Yeah, that just doesn't right. Doesn't
You
that
can
just
do that in
sound
Texas.
stupid?
No. You're out
Texas?
there, out on the range, out on the edge of those small canyons, looking out into the
I
infinite.
feel like in Texas you get some fucking meat on the grill.
Here's what
get
you
some
do.
tall boys. Just woo, just get crazy. Get the guitar out.
Here's what you do in Texas. You go and you buy the best. No, you've had this. I don't know anything about wine, but proper wine. You've got some proper wine that's been sitting there, aging for decades.
Yeah.
You've been holding it like Paul Giamatti in Sideways is for a special occasion, and unlike in Sideways, you get that occasion. So you take your woman and you go out, or man. It's Texas.
Sure, there.
And you go out into you drive 30, 45 miles out into the distance, out into the escape, the expanse.
Expanse,
The
yeah.
place where no one can find you, the place where the only thing occurring is the love between these two people. And it fills all that you can see in this vista, this poorly worded metaphor. And you look out beyond and you see that storm, it's approaching, and it's 2-3 hours away. And you're going to finish that bottle of wine and you're going to make love before the storm hits. And you're going to drive back home as the hail pummels your small pickup truck. And you'll know that hail breaking the glass, obstructing your vision, causing you to go off the road into the sudden flash flood. That's because of the lovemaking you gave to the sun.
That's really kind of a romantic American dream right there.
Die after
I feel
sex?
no, I mean, just the expanse of America and even though you're alone, you're with somebody, it's kind of, I don't know, there's something romantic about that in terms of the American dream and going out and finding your destiny.
You do have that thing where every time we go out and drive somewhere and that there's like this sudden like massive rock structures and stuff, you just say America.
America,
Well, that's like what only the West and the Midwest seem to have, is those ridiculous expanses of like the kind that you forget about, and then when it comes howling back at you when you're going into it, you're like overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Because it's untouched. It seems untouched, despite the road.
There is something just great about driving out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
It kind of just has to be like you and somebody else.
Or alone. You could do
alone.
You could do alone.
Well, that's also the difference between you and me. You like to do shit alone.
Yeah, that's true. I like to, well, but not all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm an only child. It makes sense.
That's true. I guess you have a different perspective on it all, because it's almost like I need somebody to witness something with me.
I can understand
there's just satisfaction in being able to be like, man, remember that time that we did this? And it's like, yeah, I remember that time. That was beautiful. And I'm like, I'm so glad you were there to witness this with me. Otherwise, who am I going to reminisce with?
Well, see, that's the thing, is that I think you gotta have a balance of that, because there is a part of me that likes certain experiences to be shared, but then there's a part of me that likes to know that I'm the only one with that experience, and not in the sense of that I'm cooler because I have it on my own. It's in the sense of that it feels like it made me part. It is a part of who I am just as a person now, as opposed to is a story about my life. It is like when I think about when I was traveling a lot, and I think about moments where you would drive in these big areas where you just see farms in the distance or in the mountains, and you see trees and stuff. just watching out over those things and sort of, eating candy bars and thinking. And, I didn't share that really with anyone. I mean, there would be other people at times around me, but I feel like it informs the moment and the quietness of it, and that I don't have to say anything. I don't have to have an answer for it. I don't have to decide what it means. It's more of just an aura. It's just a thing that kind of sits with you. And if it for some reason, the imagery of it too kind of sticks with you. But I would say it's not going to be the same experience, right? So like if you go see the Grand Canyon alone and you wander through the crowds and you go eat at that silly little restaurant and have some bad chili, and then you walk down a trail a little bit, or you go stand in a crowd of 100 people watching the sunset or the thing, what you have is that there can be a positive version of isolation. So like, amongst the crowd, and you can observe and you can have distant thoughts that don't have to matter to anyone else. You can wander. But I can say that when you're with somebody else, then it becomes about also the reaction of the other person, and you have a slight duty at that point to the other person, right? So I would say part of it is being, as an only child, it's nice to have those moments in your life where you are dutyless, right? Yeah. Because really in life, the only duty you have is to your parents at that point. So, like,
that's a really great perspective, actually. That I guess that's what I kind of maybe lack to a certain degree, is having experiences simply for myself and for improving my character, or
it doesn't have to be improving.
Well, not improving, but just enriching my own self. I guess that's just something that maybe that's something that a lot of people miss. Maybe you're onto something.
Well, but it also, but I can understand very much so when you want somebody else, because that's the one thing that I've never been able to reconcile, is that I like to have it both ways.
Well, you know what it does? It brings a sense of reality to me. It grounds my experience to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like, it makes me feel like what I did actually mattered to a certain extent.
I see. That's interesting, because there's a part of me that wants it to feel floaty and feel amorphous and uncertain. Yeah. That there's a romance to that feeling.
Yeah.
Too. Like when you go fly by yourself for the first time.
Yeah.
And but I.
Yeah.
Because like last year, it's already been almost 2 years. Jeez. Anyway, when I was searching for gas stations for my short film, that's information for the listeners.
What's your short film?
It's Faceless But Remembered. Maybe one day you'll be able to see it. But I was having to search for these gas stations, and it was a great excuse to just get in the car in the middle of the night and wander out into the desert. I remember I drove out to Paris, California, and then on my way back, I was in, what's it called? Lake, starts with an M. They have like a hockey team or something that's like the Tornadoes or something.
Yeah.
Lake Murrieta? Yeah, that's what it is, Lake Murrieta. Okay. And there was a 7-Eleven open there, and it was like 6 in the morning, I think. And I had been out all night just driving through the desert and stuff. And I went to the 7-Eleven, and I bought a water and a cookie. And I made some kind of joke to the only person in there. He didn't laugh. And then I went and I ate the cookie, and I was drinking my water on the way back home, and the sun was up by the time I got home, and I went to sleep. And nothing really occurred, of if you write it down, of substance, you know what I mean? But there's something that I appreciate. I would say that is sort of required for my personal being to be able to have those sort of moments of nonsense, or that don't seem to have any immediate meaning, but at the same time feel like they're just allowing myself to. It's like how some people just sit there on the internet for hours and wander through down the rabbit hole. You can do that
in the world.
In reality.
That's great. I think I need to do that more with my life.
But also too, it's like
I mean,
that,
there's so many moments recently where I just want to grab my camera and just go wander around.
so why don't you do it?
I don't know. I guess there's a sense of, I guess, living with somebody. It makes me almost afraid to do things alone.
I mean, but
To a certain degree, because I feel like, I don't know, naked almost.
But you
know what I'm
are-
saying? There's a certain amount of vulnerability that happens when you're alone and out doing things.
well, that's because what you're saying is that act then is a separation from something, a relationship you have put considerable effort and attributed a lot to,
Yeah.
which, not here, not in my party. So, you know what I'm talking about? But I was getting at the idea, you're talking about the fear of the nakedness and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Part of the reason is the same thing. Like, I'm sure you can see arrogance in this and you can also see something good out of it.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that I can get in my car and I don't have to answer my phone and I can go away and nobody else knows what I'm doing. And that my fate is up to me.
Yeah.
And that, that could go poorly if I do more risky stuff, but I'm not really that kind of a risk taker. I'm not a guy who's going to be like, I'm going to go to Juarez tonight and see if I can
Yeah, no,
drunk and start
I'm
some
just
fights.
I'm just talking about. I mean, simple stuff like going to a restaurant by yourself, going to see a movie by yourself.
Going to the restaurant by yourself, I do draw a line a little bit.
Well, but you go pick up stuff. You know, like
I go to the movies by myself.
you go to the movies.
Most of the
Yeah,
time.
you go to. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you do that you don't even think about that you do alone. That I probably go to the grocery store, right? You go to the grocery store alone.
Yes, but I will say this.
I hate going to the grocery store. I mean, I do it. Maybe that's probably the only thing that I actually go do alone. Yeah, I'd say, besides doing other little dumb stuff, going to the gas station and stuff. I don't know.
But I
I
would
just
say-
like having company, but but I want to do stuff alone. But for some reason, it's always like there's this voice inside me that's like, well, find somebody to go and do this with.
Gotcha,
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, if it hasn't, if one day you just try it and you don't like it, then there you go. Because maybe at the same time, the voice is telling you, it's like, what are you doing? That's not really what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe you're just trying to, sometimes you have thoughts where you're like, maybe I should act against my character or something.
And also, I sometimes don't like, there's a select few people I also like going to the movie theater with purely because there's a certain type of person that I don't like to go to a movie theater with because of their personality. And
Oh, no, I know.
like, I don't like going to movies with people who don't normally watch movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like going to see like movies with my parents.
But it depends.
Because
You
they-
got to be real wise with what you're going to see, because sometimes you feel like, okay, well, this is a time I can bond with my parents, and I can use this as an opportunity moment to, like, not be a piece of shit kid, and
Yeah.
like do something about
Yeah.
the fact that
Well, and also, but there's some people that you go see a movie with, you can't really talk to afterwards because you can't really get in depth with them about movie making and the history of movies and
and what that's saying is that's what you want
yeah.
in the person where you going.
Yeah.
Now, there's certain people that, like my friend Cal, the movies I'm going to see with him are movies that I normally wouldn't see generally.
Right.
It would just be simply like, he'd go, hey man, it's my birthday. You want to go see Neighbors 2? And I haven't even seen Neighbors.
There you
I'm
go.
like, I'll go with you, sure. And you go there, he talks during the movie, he laughs at it. And that's fine. The nature of seeing that movie like that is understood.
Yeah.
Or like seeing the crappy Magnificent Seven remake and just laughing at it during the movie, right?
Wait, did you see that?
Oh yeah, with him. But we laughed
Was
at
it
it
bad?
openly. It was terrible, but
Oh, fuck.
it was bizarrely edited. But what I'm getting at is the fact that, I think over time you start to, because going to a movie or watching a movie at least,
Yeah.
for some people is not the same experience as some others. Like, some people it's very casual and it's sort of like not that important to pay attention.
Yeah.
Whereas like, even if it's a terrible movie, like if in the first 30 minutes you're sitting there like, making noises or talking all the time, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, let me try. So I haven't really watched that many movies lately because I've been ridiculously busy. I've been working every day and then moving finally. And then also, everything's going on. And then my friend from Memphis was here. The three of us went out to
Memphis, that was fun.
Around town.
That was really, really fun. I was really surprised by how interesting Venice Beach is.
I hadn't been there.
Yeah, it's like really gritty and grimy and like...
And it feels that there are alleyways or pockets of danger.
Yes. Oh, man, very much so. I'm actually really happy that it's kind of untouched by the whole...
It hasn't been like quote unquote revitalized in the way that word means.
And it's not like, I mean, there's definitely some touristy areas, but it's not like you're going to find like a fucking McDonald's or something like right there.
It's not like
I
the
don't know,
Santa
maybe there
Monica
is, but
Pier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. You're not going to find a Bubba Gump Shrimp Company restaurant. God.
I think is there a Bubba Gump Shrimp Company at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco?
Yes, there is.
That feels incorrect.
God. Well, that's just problems with capitalism. You know what I mean? That shit just can ruin stuff. It just makes everything feel less genuine.
But how?
And the biggest thing is that they don't give a fuck.
Well,
that's like the biggest. Like, what kind of values do you have with like let places be?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know a lot about Fisherman's Wharf. I've only been there once in my life, but my thing is that how many people go to Bubba Gump Shrimp Company?
Every time I pass one, there's lines.
They're like it's like the Rainforest Cafe of like less Rainforest Cafe.
I mean, but it's probably also just because they don't know any better. You know, I mean,
it's like going to Chili's.
Well, it's going to Chili's, but it's if you didn't know Chili's was like a big chain restaurant.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's how it works. Otherwise, I don't know why they're going to it.
But you only see Bubba Gump Shrimp Companies in like touristy areas, in my experience.
But maybe that's because those folks don't.
They want to go there.
They don't see it every day, so they're like, "Oh, this must be like a special place."
Yeah, that's true.
Special
place, Bubba Gump Shrimp Company.
I mean, I don't have any other way of explaining it besides that.
Right.
They're just being duped into going there. I don't know.
This might sound like a tangent, but for some reason this made me think about. You know who died today? The guy who founded Waffle House.
Oh, yeah.
He was 98, I think, and he was still driving to an office that he had at their headquarters like up until like a week or two ago.
That's pretty cool. Waffle houses are pretty cool.
I love Waffle House. I wish they had them out here. I would go to...
Oh, they don't have Waffle Houses out here?
No.
I think I've only been to a couple Waffle Houses, though.
Really, though? Yeah. Waffle House is where you used to go in the night with all your friends, and you go there, and you just tell stupid stories, and you make jokes, and you laugh the hardest at Waffle House.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
I think I've experienced... I think I've only been to two, but is there a kind of humidity inside Waffle House? Of course. I feel like there's...
It's like wet. It's like the grease is like... There's a cloud that the pressure is building inside because it won't be released because they have the double doors. You know, there's like that little corridor like when you're an astronaut and you're coming back from space.
Wait, are you... airlock?
Yeah. But see, the thing is like, man... You go there and you get the hash browns with the Burt's chili on it, and you get like a double cheeseburger, or you get obviously waffles or pancakes. It's the best, man. It is so good.
Well, speaking of food, have you eaten anything cool?
Well, you know what I'm going to say is the best thing I've eaten.
Langers?
We've been there. Well, I love Langers, and I think that is But I hadn't had Korean barbecue in quite a while.
Yeah.
And then we ate Korean barbecue. And boy, that stuff is so good.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know what Korean barbecue is, it's basically these huge restaurants. They're normally really, really big. And you all sit around a grill. And some places you cook your own food. Other places they cook it for you right in front of you. But they just give you a bunch of raw meat. And it just cooks right in front of you. And then you just like pick it off of the thing and it's great.
But it's about the quality of the meat.
Yeah, that's true.
And like you can taste how good it is.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to a steakhouse and you go to like, one that's like, you're only spending $20 on steak.
Yeah.
You're stuck with the steak and it's not that great. But at least at a crummy Korean barbecue
You're
place,
stuck with the steak and it ain't that great.
but at least at a Korean barbecue place, you get a variety of things, and there's always ways to mess with the flavor.
Oh,
'Cause they give you so much of the stuff.
They give you a lot of tools to kind of mess with it. Because usually at Korean places, they give you all those, like you just sit down and there's already a bunch of cold things in front of you, like pickled radishes and kimchi and all that. Yeah, they do. They give you a bunch of shit to just mess with, It's really cool.
I was just you said kimchi. I don't think I've yet had kimchi that I like. Do you?
I'm not a fan.
But see, I feel like kimchi is like one of those dishes where like that's like a quintessential
it's like
Korean dish, right? Or is it just Korean kimchi?
Well, it's known as being Korean.
But like it's almost like curry is to
India,
where
absolutely.
it's like so respected to get it to a really good quality.
It's like sushi for Japan.
I wonder if I recount all the places I've had kimchi, they're not top tier places. So
I just don't get it. It's just a taste that I don't understand, that I'm just not accustomed to, and I've never built up a like for it,
So what I'm saying is that what we should do is we should figure out where the go-to kimchi place is, and we should try it. Because I want to know. Because it's like wine in that way. Because I never thought wine tasted good, and then suddenly I had good wine. And I said, okay, now I know what's going on today. Yeah. And I want to be drinking this all the time.
I mean, to tell you the truth, I've had good wine before, but I still don't think I get it. Wine.
Really?
Well, you know what I don't understand? I can't tell I couldn't tell you the difference between an expensive wine and a cheap wine. I think that's what I stumble over.
I don't have enough experience to be able to do that. But I can tell you I've had bad wine and good wine.
Okay, I've had bad wine. I mean, I know what like fucking cheap ass wine is, Yeah. But if you were, I couldn't tell you that. Okay, I'll put it this way: I couldn't tell you the difference between a $20 bottle of wine and $100 bottle of wine. I couldn't tell you the difference, and I think.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Is that the way that you should?
And I'm skeptical about anyone who can.
I mean, I'm out of my league at that point. So let's put it this way.
I think the difference is so subtle that it's a ripoff.
Man. I feel like that when you have bad wine, the way it goes down is a harsh feeling. Yeah. It's almost like, when you get bad beer, it's just sort of like, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, I just want to be drunk. But then there's the good wine. It's like anything that is like of quality. Yeah. It's like suddenly you get the quality and you want that that moment of it's a personal moment at that point. It's like good food. Yeah. And you have it, you let it sit with you and you savor it. You savor it, you appreciate it, and you let it be what you're focusing on for that moment. Whereas because there's care at that point. Yeah. But beyond, below that, it's as I like to say, it's just a edible mass. Because there's also a thing that I like that just you shove stuff that I can consume into my body. I'm fine with that a lot of the time. Right. But when you get the kind of true has like a beautiful quality to it. It's like I said last time. It's like it's a pleasure, and that word is
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just, it's like you stop talking so much, and it's like it's like driving around surface streets and you turn the radio off for a moment and you appreciate the view.
Yeah.
And then you get into you drive into a crummy with strip malls and you turn it back on to see what's going on. And
Well, I will say that wine in combination with good food heightens the experience of drinking wine for me.
I was gonna say, did I tell you about Le Cinema Club?
No.
I gotta look it up real quick. But Le Cinema Club is put on by like Manola Dargis and somebody else, the film critics, basically out of the New York Times, and it's a kind of a email service set up where like every week there's just a short film that shows up in your email inbox, and it could be good, it could be bad, it could be long, it could be short.
That's kind of cool.
And it usually focuses on sort of, not mainstream stuff. And then they also do like, they invite filmmakers, actors and stuff to make lists of their favorite like European movies and stuff like that. And then it gives you the links on how to see them. And it's free. And I don't know, I started doing that a couple weeks ago, and I've watched a couple shorts on it. And it's pretty nice.
Oh, this looks really cool.
Yeah, you should definitely try it.
Yeah. I also just like, sometimes I'm looking at the website right now, but I can sometimes tell if I'm going to like something simply by the aesthetic of the
That's
website.
true.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's definitely, as far as the way I would put it, it's like if Criterion focused on short films. That's
yeah,
what it's
it looks
like.
cool. It looks cool.
Yeah, so I'd recommend that. It's free.
I'm trying to think of some TV that what did I watch? Oh, I watched the first episode of Fargo.
Of the whole series or the new season?
The third season.
I haven't seen any of the third season.
Have you seen the other ones?
I've only seen the pilot.
Of
of
the first season?
whole series, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Ewan McGregor's in this.
Yeah, see, he plays like dual opposing roles.
Yeah. Right off the bat. He has the worst American accent.
And is he trying to put on like a
He's doing it.
Midwestern?
He's doing it really, really hard because he's doing an American accent with that Midwest.
But is it meant to be comedic, the accent?
Well, yeah. I mean, it seems like. I mean, like Fargo, the movie, and the TV show, they seem to try to make fun of that. Well, not make fun of it, but it's just...
It's like amplified for like a semi-cartoon.
Yeah, right. But his accent is just so bad. It takes me out of it.
Oh, really?
And I love Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Like,
even when he does American accent movies. Like I
No.
think... Really?
Okay, he was
Do you
all
like
right in
Big
the beginning.
Fish?
Big Fish gets to me, dude. Big Fish.
In a good or bad way?
No, the accent is
Really?
bad.
But see, I
Dude,
feel like...
it's so terrible.
But
I don't
see-
understand how...
But in that movie, it seems like the whole thing is stylized to the point where even his performance and accent is like this overly hokey 50s thing. I wasn't taken out of it. I thought it was a part of the whole world.
I don't think it meshes with the rest of the movie, though. I don't feel like everyone else is doing that.
I'm trying to think who I can feel the same way about, because I don't know if his accent has ever taken me out of anything that I've watched him in. Because I'm trying to think.
Beginners, no. I don't think so. I don't think in Beginners. I think it was all right, but...
What about Revenge of the Sith?
Well, he was just doing like an English accent, though.
Oh, geez, you're right. He's not doing it.
I mean, he's Scottish,
Yeah, you're right.
but I think, I mean...
Because he was trying to match up with Alec Guinness.
Yeah, Alec Guinness.
That's
But yeah,
funny.
but this first episode, I don't know, man. It usually takes me. I'm not. I mean, I've seen all of the Fargo TV show as thus far, but it always takes me a while to get into it, and I'm not ever a huge fan of it.
Oh, okay.
I can kind of appreciate it for television, for what it is for television, but it
doesn't
never
bust out of
really.
that,
It doesn't grip me as much as other people seem to be.
I should see the first episode of that season. Yeah, I don't know. When you go to the movies at AMC or some of these places where they play a ton of FX stuff before the movies, the clips I see from this season look awesome. Because I know last season was in the past, right?
Yeah, and this one takes place in the present.
Because I like the sort of present of that because it's more blue collar, and I think that's sort of the point.
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it's very just about the period and stuff like that.
Yeah, it can get a little bit lost in what it's trying to,
Yeah.
But it's all right. It's all right so far, but we'll see.
Okay.
He's okay. What else did I see? I think that's pretty much it. Oh, no, it's not. L.
Oh, you did. You finally saw it.
Yeah, I saw L. We talked about it a little bit, but it's good. It's a good movie. I know you really
I love.
You can't give it enough praise. Yeah.
I don't think it's the best movie I've ever seen, but I feel like that a movie like that is not made very often. A movie where it's like an adult, dark, sardonic, humorous movie that doesn't set out to please anybody.
Right.
I feel like it has a sensibility to it where it's not overly indulgent at any point, but yet it feels very much what people there wanted to make.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's also this very classic sense, like the shot where where the wind is blowing, they have to close the shutters, and there's that shot outside where they're both like trying to close it, and it's like this weird look of like
I didn't get that.
Really?
No,
to me,
I don't get that.
To me, it was like Paul Verhoeven, like in some weird way, referencing these like overly stylized and overacted like old Hollywood movies and stuff for this very, the
Like
sort of
Hitchcock.
Yeah, very
movie,
Hitchcockian. Yeah. This movie is super Hitchcockian,
Yeah.
but not in the traditional sense of like how the plot works and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's basically just a character piece with the thrust of a sort of rape revenge story too. But there's all the weird stuff about how you learn about her father and the way her mother talks to her, and
that is interesting. I wish that was explored a little bit more than it was. Wait, he kills himself before she's able to see him, right?
Yeah, she finally goes to meet him, and that's the whole thing.
I was waiting for that moment. I think that's what maybe left a bad taste in my mouth. I was waiting for that moment for her to see him.
But I thought that was the point. It's like she hasn't been able to do it her whole life, and then she gets there, and the reason he kills himself is because she's coming.
Exactly.
And it's like, because then there's that final scene where they go to the cemetery, and she's with this woman that that they have this weird sort of quasi-lesbian relationship, and it's sort of like nothing ever seems to work out, and I feel like they're walking off in the end into a cemetery, and there's just a lot of, I feel like I should see it again so I can be able to express what I think he's trying to say with all this stuff, but I feel like whether or not it's 100% successful, I feel like what he's going for in that movie is way more interesting than pretty much most things that exist.
Yeah.
And I feel like, also, I just think Isabelle Huppert is awesome.
Yeah. Oh no, she was really good. She was really good.
Because she has this whole thing where she can be very feminine, but completely tell you how much more well-read, how much stronger she is, how much more strong-willed she is. She's like a person that's completely self-reliant.
Yeah.
And I think that's generally the type of character she plays, even if it's somebody who can't control things, that she can hold her own in a fight.
I think secretly I just want Paul Verhoeven to make another sci-fi movie.
Isn't he going to?
I don't know.
I know that he said, he got tired of working in Hollywood after Hollow Man, and he's just been making movies in Europe. But I know that he said in an interview, I think it was on the Film Society of Lincoln Center. They have a podcast where they have people talk, and I know he said, "Hey, yeah, if I can make another movie in Hollywood, I'd be glad to. It just doesn't ever work out. Because they tried to make Elle here for a while, and nobody would do it.
So he's making a World War II movie about the French resistance, and he's also making a...
Oh, he's making the
movie.
Jesus movie, right? He's been trying to get a movie about Jesus made for a
Well,
while.
this is about religion in Italy in the 17th century.
Gotcha.
But no sci-fi movie.
But I would...
But maybe, who knows? Maybe it's in the works.
I know that the writer of...
Because, I mean, all these sci-fi movies coming out, it's like, let's get a fucking
Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven. I mean...
What's interesting is that
I mean,
we
have you
think of him
seen
as...
have you seen like RoboCop and Total Recall and okay.
And so interesting that we think about, because I don't think before he came to America he was really doing sci-fi. And he made a bunch of movies before he came
I
to
like how
America.
you said that sci-fi.
Sci-fi. But I was going to say, Paul Verhoeven wrote a book about Jesus. And he
Whoa.
wants to make a movie like hardcore about Jesus. A Paul Verhoeven Jesus movie would be amazing.
Whoa.
And the guy who wrote Elle apparently has worked with Paul Verhoeven to write a script. I would...
Very cool.
It could be a complete disaster, but it'd be one worth paying for, I think.
True.
It's sort of like Terry Gilliam's Don Quixote, except not on the same scale. It could be trash, but the day it finally gets made, you have to see it.
It's good.
Well, they're actually making it now, Don Quixote, the man who killed Don Quixote. I think Amazon Studios is funding it.
Terry Gilliam?
Terry Gilliam, yeah.
Whoa. That's interesting.
That'll be... we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
The only thing I'm nervous about is Adam Driver is in it, because I remember when he was doing it on the version that they shot Lost in La Mancha in, it was Johnny Depp,
Right,
which
right.
would have, and I think John Hurt as Don Quixote, which is perfect, but he's passed. So
Oh, that was what it was originally going to be?
they've tried to make this movie 4 times.
Yeah, but that's not what happened in the documentary. In the documentary, remember, they got this French play actor.
That's right. So was
and
John
he
Hurt
fell
later?
sick. Huh?
John Hurt was later.
I don't know.
I
I don't remember John Hurt. Maybe
I know that John Hurt at one point
they
was gonna
started
play
shooting
Don
with
Quixote.
John Hurt.
I don't know if they started shooting,
Oh, okay.
but I know that the version with Johnny Depp existed at one point. But
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm nervous it's just going to be CGI, really crummy CGI overload,
Yeah.
because that's
Oh,
basically
man.
all anyone gives him money for anymore.
That last movie he did was bad.
Boy, it was
God,
terrible.
it was so boring.
It was boring because it never once tried to have any dramatic sense. Like, there's that sequence where he goes out into the world for maybe 10 minutes, and you're like, oh, great. There's all this cool production design and zany camera work. Nope, we're going to go back to this building and just ramble.
That's true. Yeah.
He teases you in that beginning, and then you're just like, I got to sit in here and hear.
Yeah, in most Terry Gilliam movies, you definitely get a sense of the world and the absurdity of what's happening, and yeah, it was just kind of stuck in a room the entire time.
Didn't he say that it was a part of like a trilogy of Brazil-connected movies?
I don't know.
It doesn't really matter.
I mean, I remember people saying it was like a spiritual sequel to.
Oh, right. That's
but
right.
I didn't see that.
I mean, Zero Theorem was bad. It like impossibly bad. Like might be his worst movie. But
It's not his worst movie.
Oh, what's his worst?
The Heath Ledger one.
I was about to say that might, but at least that movie is trying for something a little more emotional. Imaginarium, Dr. Parnassus, because the core of the movie is like these people who want to connect and they want to be able to stay and have romances, and the sort of Heath Ledger subsequent spin-off characters. I mean, they don't want to be given over to the devil and all that stuff. And I think there's interesting stuff in that movie that completely is forgotten in Zero Theorem. Zero Theorem, I don't know what it's worth.
Yeah.
But I'll still
agree.
go see his next movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely. I'll
Yep.
definitely always see his movies.
Yep. It's sort of
Definitely.
like Woody Allen at that point, except at least Woody Allen's movies, you go in and you're like, all right, I see what you're doing. And if it's terrible, you just you can wait through it. But the bad Terry Gilliam movie, you're like, don't understand. It's like a bad comedy.
Yeah.
Where just somebody's trying to do something to you and you just feel the fingers poking and you're like, you're giving me a headache.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there you go.
I'm trying to think of anything else I saw. You mentioned something. Oh, Psycho. We were talking about Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah, we
Psycho.
watched Psycho at the Egyptian in 35.
In 35. It was pretty
with
cool.
With a pretty vocal audience, too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was what I liked about seeing it with that audience is because generally when you see it, you're seeing it in like film school or some environment where it's very serious and you don't get to appreciate how there is a lot of humor.
Yeah.
And you don't get to appreciate that everybody finds it funny.
Yeah.
And that it's okay for it to be laughed at times.
Yeah.
And
because Anthony Perkins is funny in this.
Yes, and he's intentionally funny.
Yeah.
But there's like I don't know. This time that we saw it, you had talked to me about all the things that the conversion therapies that he was that people were putting him through and stuff. And there's like a serious tragedy to this movie within that certain context.
Well, yeah. I wonder what happened with his life after that. Like, how could Psycho come out, and Anthony Perkins, who made that movie, like, stepped it up? Like, did he not become a huge star after that? Like James Dean level, like huge star.
Well, he's not a James Dean type.
I know he's not a James. Okay, maybe that's a bad example. Maybe like
when I think about Anthony Perkins in that movie, I think about late in the movie. Who is the person she's having an affair with?
Who?
The guy from Phoenix, or the guy from the small town. That she's having an affair with.
Right.
But there he comes to see him for the first time to question him, and Anthony Perkins is running down the steps and he's sort of hopping down, and he's like, it's almost like Hitchcock was like, "Hey, we're ready for you," and he was just hanging up. He's like, "Oh, I gotta get there quick," and he's just jumping down like a kid.
Yeah.
And what I think about is so interesting is that he's like such a physical performer where the rest are not.
Yeah.
I mean, the detective is great in that movie, but I think it's like.
You remember that shot where the detective is going through the sign-in list of guests who have stayed there? Remember what do they call it? What's the book you
the guest book.
The guest book. And he finds what's her name? The lady who had been killed by Anthony Perkins. He finds her name and he's like, "Yep, this is her," or whatever. And like, there's a shot of Anthony Perkins like tilting his head,
and it follows him down.
And it follows his head.
Yeah, because what's interesting is I bet when that first came out, it was just ooh, look how strange this is. But there's like you can't help but it's sort of endearing at the same time.
Well, it's almost like, well, first of all, there's a lot of like bird type
and all the imageries in the movie,
themes in the movie, which is, and that was a very bird-like thing to do, you know.
Because he's using his neck.
But also, he's like the fact that I think what that movie does so well is that the sense, and then we've all felt this, and that's why I think it hit so hard, is that the sense of that you've done something wrong, and somebody knows that maybe you've done something wrong, and they're trying to find out if you indeed did something wrong.
All the while you're trying to believe yourself that you haven't.
And that you won't get caught for it. That's what that movie does very well. And I think that's what that shot almost is that he's trying overly hard to make this guy believe that he hasn't been involved in any kind of crime that's happened to this person.
I think her name is Marion, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think so, because there's the same things happening with her as she's stealing the money, and there's that whole sequence at the car dealership that ends with the three people all standing there. Because what you get when I feel this, what's interesting in that movie is that he kills her, but she's sort of in a similar situation.
Yes,
she's not a inherently psychological one, because I think she's stealing that money and trying to rationalize it. Yeah, and that he is killing people and trying to rationalize it.
Right. Well, exactly. The problem that's established in the first act, the reason, she's on the run, her running is continued through another character.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? So
the
problem even though the main character is killed off, the same sense of do they know? Do these people know? Are they going to find me out? Like, it is maintained.
It is kind of miraculous how that movie starts and stops like 4 times, and like starts over with a new set of people over and over.
Oh yeah.
Because when she finally dies, you think. Then it starts to feel like it's a detective's movie.
Yeah.
And then he dies in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, is it the lover and her sister?
Right.
And then it's ultimately Anthony Perkins.
Right.
But he is the ultimate, like, show after she dies. So
right.
It's kind of... Because what's interesting is he has to put on... There's a weird thing happening because the final shot of the movie when he's sitting there talking to himself in his head, you can tell that they were trying to say, how do we make everybody go like, ooh, he's so weird and strange, but at the same time not just devolve into that is all it is.
Yeah.
And you can tell that I think the person trying the most at that is Anthony Perkins. Because in the movie, it seems like the way I was talking about the way he's running, it's like somebody who's trying to please everything at once, just trying to make everything work at once.
Yeah.
And he's like Al Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon, where it's like you can't be magic.
Yeah, that's true.
And make this all work.
But okay, so that's the second to last shot.
Oh right, because the last thing
shot
is the skeleton, or
no, it's the car being pulled
sinking.
out of the
swamp.
swamp.
Pulled out of the swamp. That's right,
dude.
That's right. You're right.
Phenomenal. That last shot.
Yeah.
Oh God, but yeah, that's a fantastic movie. I could talk about. I could literally spend an entire hour just talking about that movie.
You know what's also amazing? So I've seen that sequence where after she dies, and it's the way it comes out of the sink into her eye, and then it goes across the room and shows everything, and you just hear the shower running.
Yeah.
I've seen that a bunch, and what I think is so great about that is it's like completely hypnotic with the sound of that running water. I don't know. I think that's one of my favorite scenes.
Oh, it's
sure.
a historic scene.
But I mean, like, it's the aftermath is what I'm talking about. Is all the stuff that you see and the way it's composed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it a lot.
It's so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think maybe we should get on to our main movies.
Yeah, the main course on this show called Buffet.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break, and when we return, we're going to talk about Your Name and Spirited Away,
which have more in common than I realized. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be right back.
What's your favorite color?
Black.
Why is black your favorite color?
Because
Really go into detail with this, please. Will you please go into details with this?
I like black because it blends with everything. Like it matches. I think it doesn't look good with black, and I think it looks awesome when I'm wearing it. And it blends in with shadows and stuff like that. It's a good, just neutral.
So we recently sat down and saw 2 movies. One is new in theaters, and the other's been sort of obviously well known forever.
Very well known.
So we watched both Your Name, the new box office hit.
Smash?
It's a huge hit in Japan.
Yeah, it is.
And
well, it's a huge hit everywhere, right?
yes,
Weren't you saying it's
extremely
it's
successful? Yeah.
Right.
And then we also watched Miyazaki's Spirited Away,
Which was a huge hit at that
Yes.
time too. I mean, that's one of the kind of the common thread is that these are both.
Didn't this? It's the first movie to beat Spirited Away.
I think
at
I
the
heard
box office.
that. Yeah, I'm going to take your
Japan?
word for it. But yeah, I mean, so these are huge, historic movies for anime.
Well, time will tell with Your Name.
Right.
It's always interesting. I wonder what it was like pre-Studio Ghibli
Yeah.
because I don't have a clear understanding of the history of anime. And
Yeah.
I don't think either of us do. But when I think of what is quote-unquote quality anime outside of television, I only think of Studio Ghibli. And I know that the director, what's his name again, of Your Name?
Makoto Shinkai.
Yeah, Makoto Shinkai. I know that he's sort of touted as the rightful sort of heir
Oh, I
to
didn't know
this
that.
throne.
Okay.
As far as anime and like quality anime
Yeah.
and the feature sense is concerned. Because I have previously seen two of his films called The Garden of Words, and I think it's called 25 centimeters per second.
Okay.
25 centimeters per second, interestingly, is also about, or at least has a meteor sort of subplot in it.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, but Garden of Words is actually a pretty spectacular little movie. It's that green one you can see right there. But anyhow, so the movie Your Name is about two characters, a boy and a girl, and the boy's name is
Taki.
Taki, and the girl's name
Mitsuha.
So Taki and Mitsuha, right? And they start experiencing that they have switched bodies, and they're sort of modern, just average Joe people in modern day Japan.
Right.
And there's a sort of body switch thing, and you spend a lot of the movie watching them figure out how the rules work, about why they don't always wake up in the other person's body, or all these things, and how it affects their relationships in their lives and what each other is doing for the other.
Yeah.
And you also notice that it's interesting how they don't remember.
Yeah.
And so they
have like
have
time,
to,
periods of time are lost.
And so they try to communicate to each other through writing on themselves and diaries and things like that.
Yeah.
And you spend, I would say, the first half of the movie in this realm of
Trying
a sort
to figure
of
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also this sort of crowd pleasing setup.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's about the comedy of it, it's about the zaniness of it, but also like what they really want as people, and their emotional selves. And then you just faintly know throughout the movie with some images that there is a meteor that somehow connects them, and these images through their eyes and all these things. And then it goes into very different territory. And then the sort of overarching story is he experiences this phenomenon of body switching, which leads him to learn about this experience that happened with the meteor, which leads him to figure out, how do I save them?
Right.
And so there's all these things where he has to figure out how to communicate these things and how to find out how he can help.
Yeah.
Because it seems like there's this history of people from this place that have been trying to get people to communicate to people in the future to help the past.
Exactly.
Which actually, the more I talk about it, is a really kind of fascinating idea.
It does sound fascinating. Yeah, it does really sound fascinating.
And, there's a thing in the movie that I do like, and hopefully you can refresh my memory with it. The idea of musubi in the movie, or the grandmother in the movie talks about musubi, which is this sort of idea of how we're connected.
Yeah,
and
it's like a Buddhist thing. I think that's what it is.
That stuff is really interesting.
Yeah,
to me.
that's interesting. Yeah.
I think where I got a little away from it was beyond sort of some of the extremely un-American style choices, as in ridiculous music playing, or then, cut to weird cartoon animation and be their thought bubbles and stuff.
Right.
Aside from that, it was so talkative. It was such a wordy movie.
Yeah.
And it felt like that took away from the sense of wonder that the characters were having that I wanted to have as well.
Yeah.
However,
well, it makes you kind of think, why is this movie animated?
I thought that at times, but then there were clearly times where I said, it doesn't matter if it had to be or not. What they're doing with it is really visually nice. And I think that the way they did
I think it lacked a little bit in
Yes, you're right. There are spare moments where, like, they'll do that shot where the camera sort of pans around them
Yeah,
from behind,
right.
and I think that's really nice. But then there's that sequence in the middle of the movie where he's remembering catching a cord from her hair, and it's all these very strange sort of like
that
lightning-looking
sequence is the one time in the movie where I feel it. But I feel like I want to see a live action. I just don't
I
get
think a
why
live
it's
action
animated.
would be interesting too. I mean, there were some beautiful illustrations in the movie and artwork, obviously, but I think a thing that I one day will probably do is watch this in a dubbed version.
Yes.
Because it really was so talkative that I did find myself spending a lot of the time looking at the bottom third of the screen.
Oh.
And I think if I had the chance to give it another shot where it was just about me looking at the imagery, I wonder how it would affect me.
Yeah, I exactly. And that's why I think I would always choose dubbed over subbed in terms of anime, always, because it begs you to look. I mean, animation inherently, you need to look at it, and I feel like a third of the time I'm looking at words at the bottom of the screen.
But what's interesting is that in his other film, Garden of Words, that's a very sparsely dialogue movie, and I feel like it is served by me hearing their language.
Yeah,
because it felt much more of that world.
Yeah.
Whereas Your Name seems to be set in that world, but doesn't necessarily have to be exactly of that world. That you could, in a way, transplant that story to other places. However, I get that there are specifically Japanese responses to that movie, because I do think that there's something to be said. A town is destroyed.
Yeah.
I.e., that's a reference to the tsunami.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I would also say that the governmental response in the movie, where he's trying to communicate with the past, is a direct thing about Fukushima.
Yeah.
So that's all well and good, and I think knowing that beforehand, because I did hear people talk about that, it allowed me to sort of place that on certain things and sort of think about certain things with that perspective while watching it. Having said that, I think there's something emotionally distancing while watching it, and I wonder if it's simply the subtitles, or if it's me constantly, because I was playing catch up a lot in that movie. I feel, which is fine. It doesn't have to explain, and it can be this very complicated thing that the characters are trying to figure out, that I'm also trying to figure out. Yeah. But I did want from it a greater sense of wonder. I did want that, and I think at times
I stand by this. I think it's been done before. That's why I feel like it just didn't get me the way a sci-fi movie should. I just wasn't deep enough. I think that's it. It just didn't go deep enough into what I'm here to see, which is a unique type of sci-fi concept.
Was there?
It's just a very shallow concept.
I wouldn't say shallow. I think that's a little disingenuous.
Okay. The big gimmick of it is that they change bodies, right?
Right.
How many movies do that and have done it better?
But obviously, it was to a different point. It wasn't simply that they're changing.
Well, I know. Yeah, well, it's not simply that they're changing bodies, but they are changing body. I mean, the first half of the movie is, figuring it out that there's somebody else, and becoming accustomed to being that other person. There's so many movies that have done that before, and then changing, and then it became pretty much a time travel movie from there.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? In that there is this event that is happening in the past. How can we stop it from happening by going into the past and adjusting things until, people are saved,
But what's interesting is that I hear what you're saying and I agree with it in the sense of while watching it.
Yeah.
But the more that time passes, the more I reflect on what they're doing in the movie and what that is sort of more of a metaphor for. I mean, just very on a surface level, people in the future, or at least present day, looking at a disaster in the past and saying, how can I still fix this?
Yeah.
And then the movie, ultimately, the title referring to the fact how we have forgotten. Right?
Yeah.
Which is and then, that's why I thought the whole idea of musubi and then the threading that they do in the movie and these sort of traditions of the sake, the grandmother in that movie seems to be trying to teach them wisdom, and it seems to be like something that not everyone keeps as they get older.
Yeah.
And that is really only about this small town, and then the town is destroyed and the big city continues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like I wonder if the main culprit here is this fact that we were staring at subtitles so much. Because at the same time, there's a lot of stylistic choices that they'll never work on me. I mean, mainly the music. The way the music just suddenly turns into sort of TV show sort of territory
Japanese
with
K or J-pop, punk type sound,
and it confuses you if you're not accustomed to it.
It's very strange.
But you can sort of forgive that a little bit if you can understand what else is going on, and in a way, I feel like my instant reaction to the movie was a little disappointed because I'd heard so many good things about it.
I was very disappointed.
And yet, as time passes since seeing it, I feel like maybe I should give the movie one more chance. And
I don't think I need to give it another chance.
I mean,
okay, the subtitle fucked me up a little bit, but I've probably seen more anime than you.
Yeah, probably.
I would say that, and I've seen probably the classics, probably the stuff that you need to see, and I just don't think it doesn't add, it doesn't fit.
Why do you think it's so popular?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, why do you think it's resonating beyond Japan?
I don't know. This is a mystery to me.
I
mean, what you just said, maybe tragedy and looking back in retrospect and figuring out how you could. I mean, the whole world has pretty much been in tragedy for the last,
100 years.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. I for the life of me, and usually I'm pretty good at being like, oh, this is why this is popular. I don't know why this movie's popular. I mean, I hate to shit on it, but I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, I think that there are some things in it that I like that I feel like given the right rainy day would feel good. Like having the date set up for him by the girl taking his phone.
I hate that shit. You see,
because then he kind of loses her on the date, and I felt a little bit of like, that's what would happen to me, is that I would get this opportunity set up for me, no effort on my part, and that I would still lose it. And but these are things that I can't say to what greater point they have for me, but I really would point to The Garden of Words as, of the three movies of his I've seen, the strongest on certainly an emotional level for me. I can understand. I don't know. There are people I know that think it is like a rapturous movie. So
Oh God.
Well, but
really,
yeah.
What do they say about it? I really want to know.
Well, that they just didn't expect the movie, that it was seems to be out of left field and very like, whoa, I didn't expect to be sitting in a theater watching this today.
Wow.
Which I can understand if you know nothing about it going in. Like,
Yeah,
you know, because
I mean,
it played in
I knew nothing about it going in.
Oh, really? See,
Yeah.
I knew a little bit about it.
No, I didn't know anything about it.
I think for me, what
It just felt like a TV. It felt like a TV show. It didn't feel like a groundbreaking historical movie.
Right. Which I think gets to the core of what I would have wanted to see this story be. Is that I would, because it was how long? 2 hours?
Yeah, I'd say that, yeah.
Because, you know, I think this movie would work on us more if it allowed itself to wander a little bit more. It was so like moving. Get to this thing, get to that plot point. And I do have a feeling that, because that's what I appreciate about the Miyazaki Studio Ghibli stuff, is that it allows you to because it knows this is an illustration. I'm creating this beautiful image and we want to see it.
An overall kind of perspective on it. It lost me. I think it lost me from the beginning. It
has a very odd intro.
A very odd intro. The animation is just kind of boring and flat, and it doesn't really have any kind of personality to it.
Would you say it's boring or flat, or it just seems more like what you expect?
It seems,
from...
and I know it's probably hand drawn, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like it was done on a computer. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know he does a lot of stuff.
It's too clean.
Well, he does a lot of stuff where he goes and I think he actually shoots footage of shots and they go and reanimate that. Like when you see those handheld shots in the movie where there's like water falling and stuff like that. I know that he goes out and does that. And I know I'm harping on this movie all the time, but like I think Garden of Words does it with more grace and a lot more emotion. And I feel like that is one of those movies that surprised me.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah. And it's short. I think Garden of Words is short. What's the runtime on that? You're on the in that old IMDb.
Let's see. It's 46 minutes.
Exactly. And it
all right.
And it that one works for me.
All right, let's check that out.
Yeah. Would you work? What is a similar? You were saying you would like to see Your Name as a live action. Is there any kind of live action movie that kind of operates in a similar thing like that?
Yeah. Well, actually, there is. There's an anime movie called The Girl Who Leapt Through Time.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
And they made a live action. They remade it into a live action movie. I haven't seen it, but The Girl Who Leapt Through Time is very similar. We should.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's really good. It's really good.
Sweet.
Anyway, should we move on to Spirited Away? How
Sounds
do you feel?
good to me.
I think maybe I didn't say everything I wanted to say about it, but I
I
think people get the gist of how we felt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I like it slightly more than you.
Yeah.
Because I think I was also very like taken aback by the intro, but I also I think for more than half the movie I was still trying to give it credit, like trying to see like, well, you know, what does it add up to and all this stuff. I think it's sort of like somebody made a chili and it's fine chili, but you were wondering where's the kick to it, and then at the end you're like, okay, I am going to put some cheese and sour cream.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to Spirited Away. So Spirited Away came out in 2001. I don't know what the American release, what date that was, but probably 2001, if not.
I mean, by that point, he'd been making movies for over how long?
Oh,
quite a while.
20, 30 years?
Yeah, because I feel like his films, they come out pretty around the same time as the Japanese release.
Right. But Spirited Away was directed by Miyazaki, the Studio Ghibli dude. It's about this young girl and her family are moving to this small town, right?
And suburb.
Yeah, they're on their way driving to their new house, and they make a wrong turn, right?
Well, they see the place up on the hill, and
Yeah.
the road looks suspicious. Like
Yeah.
it's like, really, is this where we're supposed to go?
Yeah,
But
right.
like, there it is
Yeah.
up on the hill. So
right. So
you take it.
they attempted to reach the top of the hill by going down this kind of shady, overgrown road, and they eventually come to a dead end. But at the dead end, there's this kind of grand, overgrown entrance, leading to a tunnel.
Right.
And almost as if they're under a spell, they kind of get out and...
Well, the wind is pushing them.
Right,
And they
the-
mention,
yeah.
I think it's pushing us to go in.
Yeah, they're being like almost pulled into it, you
Right.
know? The parents are. Not so much with the little girl.
Which her name is
well,
Mechua?
it's
we've
her
said
name is
Mechua.
Sen
Well,
in
the
the
spirit
in
world,
the
yeah.
spirit world, but Chihiro.
Yeah, Chihiro.
Chihiro,
Because she
yeah.
can't forget that name.
That's right. That's right. But anyway, they're led through this tunnel almost as if they're under a spell, and they appear on the other side in an abandoned theme park.
Well, he
right?
thinks it's a theme park.
He thinks it's a theme park.
The father.
because the walls are made out of plaster and
Right.
and whatnot. But anyway,
And it
they're-
has a semi-appearance of an abandoned theme park.
Yeah,
But they're
right.
all restaurants, and it seems like...
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's strange. It's really weird. But anyway, they are led through this little town that's this abandoned town, and all of a sudden there's all this food everywhere, and the parents start eating, and they are transformed into pigs.
Yeah, horrifying.
Like horrifying scene where they are
Like
Yeah.
loud screeching from the
right,
pigs.
right, yeah, and
While
and
the
she's
town's
horrified,
coming alive,
right? Rather
and
this
spirits
town is
start arriving,
exactly, yeah. And then she is led to safety by this young
Haku.
boy. Yeah.
Haku?
Yeah, I think so. But anyway, she's transported into the spirit realm.
Yeah. It's a bathhouse for the spirits.
Right. It's and it centers around this huge building, a bathhouse, and she kind of has to make her way through this world and figure out what's going on and find her parents again. And she just has to operate on the rules that are set in this weird world.
Right. She has to ask for a job
Yeah.
and then get the job so that she can, in a way, gain... I'm trying to remember exactly what... By getting the job, Haku is able to...
Well, she
help
doesn't.
her.
Well, yeah, she doesn't know. I think
but getting the job allows her not to stand out.
Yeah, initially he's like, yeah, you need to get a job just so you don't stand out, right?
Yeah.
But she kind of realizes that maybe he's lying to her,
Yeah.
and that
And people are saying don't trust him.
don't trust him. Right, exactly. But anyway, she has to just navigate through this bizarre world that she's not used to. It's absurd. There are these absurd, crazy things that happen that have no explanation and that never are explained at all.
But seem to serve the greater point of allowing Sen/Chihiro to grow and become strong enough to live in a new place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I saw this movie maybe a few years after it came out on DVD with like some friends, and they were really into anime, and it was one of the first animes I'd ever seen. I mean, I had seen like Akira and Ghost in the Shell, and that's about it. But I was so struck by how bizarre and dark, and there are just these long scenes where quiet things happen and the world kind of unfolds in front of you, and you are kind of just, at least I'm just like awestruck by things that are happening in front of me, I don't think I feel this with many other anime movies. You know, I mean,
Right.
I think what I get caught up in, and I definitely got caught up in when I was young, is how cool things are in
Oh, yeah,
Japanese.
yeah.
You know, like, oh, is this going to be a cool fight scene that's about to happen?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, they're about to fight. Like, this is going to be cool, like Dragon Ball
Right,
Z and whereas this is just like, it really feels like an 80s fantasy movie, like Neverending Story or
Well, it has a lot of
Labyrinth
similar
or-
imagery too.
yeah, exactly. I think it's like almost like the last of its kind in that respect, because I don't think I've ever seen anything like it since. I mean, I like Miyazaki films, but I think this might have been like the last one that I don't know. I'm throwing that out there. I probably don't know, but it just feels one of a kind. And still to this day, I will always remember the scene where the river spirit, the big sludge.
Oh no,
thing.
he's not a river spirit. Is he a river spirit?
I don't know.
Because Haku ultimately is a river spirit.
That's it. Yeah, right. But he's
no,
some
the sludge
sludge
scene
spirit.
comes in there, and she proves to everyone that she can hold her own.
Yeah, right.
That is
right.
one of the best two scenes in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the message, which is, at least what I think it is growing up and trying to make it in a world that makes no fucking sense. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting because that took me a while to realize that that's sort of what is meant to be happening. Like
Yeah.
with No Face is like eating people and
Right.
wanting her, and I'm sitting there going like, why?
Well, and there's
And I'm
just
going-
and I think there's just so many things that are just never explained. Like, you know, why do you have to eat a little bit in order to like stay, like, you remember the first thing that
Yeah, that he does is like if you don't want to disappear, eat.
but don't
Yeah.
eat too much, right? Or you'll turn into a pig, or right? Or,
Yeah.
it's just like things like that where it's like, this is just the way it is.
Yeah,
This is just the way it is in this world. Like,
and I think what happens as the movie goes on with that in mind, because Haku very quickly gives her instructions and tries to tell you how
Yeah.
the world operates, and there's no way you can gather and
Yeah.
understand all that information. But I like that there's the sequence on the train with her and No Face, and they're just riding the train. And what was interesting is by that point, you get the sense that even in the spirit world, we don't know how. We're still a little confused
Yeah.
with how the world works
Yeah,
and
yeah.
why things have to happen to us.
yeah.
And I think that was because that was very interesting. I think the movie was trying to show a connection between Chihiro and the No Face, because he's done bad things, and she there's like a moment where they're kind of just sitting there like, "Well, we take the train,"
Right, right.
you know.
Well, and with that character specifically, No Face, the amount of loneliness and
Oh, yeah,
desperation that he has just to have her. I don't know if he's looking at her as a love interest or.
Well, she's the only
or-
person in the movie that won't do anything selfishly.
Right, right, exactly. And
Because even Haku steals the golden.
yeah, true. But yeah, there's just so many like reflections into like the real world and darkness, and like you know, there were just like moments where she just like breaks down and like cries because she doesn't understand shit. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like extreme like desperation and like just being thrown into the middle of stuff that you don't understand and like just having to do it like.
Well,
You know-
remember the Boiler Man. The only
Yeah.
explanation for why he's the Boiler Man is that he ended up there,
Yeah.
right? And he just now that's what he has to do.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, but he still helps her,
yeah.
which I think is interesting. It's like he's like, I've been resigned to this fate, but I'm gonna still. I don't want this to happen to you.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But the animation is like really cool too. I mean, like if you look at Spirited Away and you look at Your Name, it's just like such a vastness of like there's just this three-dimensional physics that I think that Studio Ghibli understands, that I don't think a lot of,
Well, I would
there's
also say the directing is much better. Just the purpose of each shot is clearer.
yeah.
But towards the idea of the animation, there's a shot in the movie when the rains are coming and you have the clouds moving, and they're just singular watercolored painted clouds that they stacked, and they move them as one.
Yeah.
And I knew when I saw it, I was like, it's just a still image that you're moving. But I was like, it's such a nice, beautiful, handmade thing. You get the sense that every little thing is cared for. And not to say that that's not what's happening in your name, but you like, even in the animation of the granny or the Yubaba,
The boss of the
I mean, it's like so extremely detailed.
Yes.
And I was going to say that's the thing too that I noticed with between these two movies, is that there is really good detail in the illustrations of both, and they're showing different environments. Obviously, like, I mean, in the small town, and especially in Tokyo, in Your Name, I found I liked the way they drew the city and stuff, but the composition and the sort of space of Spirited Away was more cinematic. And I think that's the thing that's sort of what we're talking about. The fact that they talk so much in Your Name, and there's obviously a lot of talking in Spirited Away, but the ratio of talking to silence or just letting us be,
things happen,
is greater than in Your Name. So that's why I feel like the train sequence is, even though the sludge monster scene is the most, like, she comes through it and you have this great finish to that scene. Where I feel like the scene where they're headed towards what's the identical twin sister's name?
Yeah, I know.
Giaba or something like that.
Yeah.
A similar name to Yubaba. But by that point you've got No Face, Chihiro, and the mouse and the little bird.
Yeah.
And and obviously this motley crew, this misfits, who have all made mistakes, and are going to fix it very quietly on this small train in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's quiet, and it has just music playing, and you are allowed to appreciate these things. And at the same time, I'll also say one of the big things that I feel of this movie is that every character is fully realized, and they are given their due. Whether it's in one scene, one moment, the whole movie.
That's
even
true.
the little frog character gets his whole character through.
That's totally true.
And that's what's really missing from Your Name, is a sense of individual people as characters.
Yeah, because in Your Name, Taki's two friends that go on with him to try and discover where the small town is that he had been
that he works with.
Right. They just didn't have a story. They were just kind of there. I mean, okay, the older girl, the older woman who smoked, he obviously had some love. There was some kind of love interest there, but still, it's like by the end of the film, they were the same people, and I didn't care about them.
In Spirited Away, when you have the shot where they're leaving Granny's house, and she's flying away on Haku's dragon form. Yeah. And there's that final shot where the Granny and everybody's and No Face, and they're standing there waving goodbye, and it's flying away from them. The reason why that is an emotional moment is because you have come to love these people and the characters. Because what we have seen of all of them is them make mistakes, come through with it, and then show kindness. What I like a lot is that when you finally get to the end and the parents come back, the parents start repeating lines from the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And you realize that this whole movie, in some sense, well, even though that suddenly it's overgrown when they get to their car, which suggests a lot of time has actually passed. Yeah. There's this feeling of, like, the parents we'll never know. And they weren't. They can't
Yeah.
know. They returned to the pigs. But they... What am I trying to say? It's to your point of that she has more confidence. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the parents don't change.
Right.
And
Yeah.
she is able to... I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
I had
well,
a point
her
in my mind.
her experience is personal to her. So the amount that she's changed may not be measurable by her parents, but it is by herself. She knows that she's a different person,
Right.
and that she's gone through some kind of journey, even though maybe the world doesn't.
Right.
And which is important and meaningful to her.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is that I like the idea that it all feels like it just played out almost momentarily, or just like it was all like a dream feeling. But there's more reality to
Right.
it than reality.
Right. Well, and that also like obviously harkens back to like The Wizard of Oz or like Alice in Wonderland,
Right.
coming back to reality, and things are exactly how they were left, or yeah, I'd say almost like nothing has happened, and that feeling that like, oh, everything has happened. My entire I have changed, but nothing else has changed, which is like what a dream almost. Like that's what you want,
Oh,
is
for
that
sure.
you don't want the world to have changed while you have changed. You want to be able to change and to adapt and be a better person for yourself. So
And
you can fit into the
she's given the tools she needs by non-human things, because when Haku reveals when he remembers that he's the river spirit, I thought that was interesting, because it's like, oh, because in America we don't attribute personality or characters to inanimate objects, unless it's a cartoon.
yeah.
And what's interesting, it's like nature taking care of you and saying there is something beyond the way humans interact that you can learn from, and that can help you. And we're not just a whirling ball of rock through space. Because that's what I was saying. Is he obviously Miyazaki doesn't. I don't think he's like an atheist or anything, or at least I don't think he is somebody who rejects the idea of there being an afterlife or something working to make it all work. Because I think that she leaves thinking that she has something there for her, and that can help her, and that she's not alone.
Yeah.
Which when they're headed there, I think there's a sense of like, I'm going to be on my own here. Because she said, I like my school and all these things, which, you can understand. Like, if you're taken away from all that, what do you have? Well, now you have the river, you have the spirits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like great lessons for life. I think that's also what is just missing from your name.
Yeah.
It's just not it just is lax in so many respect, in its message and in everything. It just,
it's also not as clear.
Yeah. But anyway, okay, so common threads
Right.
we were talking about. Okay, obviously the what?
Well, remembering names.
Yeah, obviously remember forgetting,
Right.
who people are, and forgetting your name, and
And a
losing your
hair
name.
cord is also
Oh, yeah,
similar.
that's true. Yeah. Obviously alternate realities,
Yeah.
and there was something else. What was it?
Well, then the connection between two main characters, trying to remember when that happened.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I do feel like the director of Your Name looked at sort of cultural pieces from Japan, and they were similar to whatever Miyazaki's experience were. And I don't think that's. I mean, there was some moments of threading in Spirited Away. I mean, they were much more central in Your Name.
Yeah.
Much more subtle in Spirited Away. But yeah, I mean, I think both operate on this idea of what tradition is, and then disrupting it, but also appreciating it in some form.
Yeah, because the bathhouse, a Japanese bathhouse. Do you know about onsens?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like huge,
Right.
and so like just normal everyday thing. I just got home from work. I just got off work. I'm gonna go to an onsen before I go home.
Right.
Like,
and
that's just
that's how the
thing.
spirits sort of treat it.
Yeah, right.
But she's the disruptor in this movie.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot more Miyazaki films than I have. What is this your favorite of them?
Well, I don't. I couldn't tell you. I've seen a lot of Studio Ghibli movies. I don't know if.
All right,
I couldn't tell you offhand which ones were specifically directed by Miyazaki.
Then just in terms of Ghibli movies.
I really like Porco Rosso.
That's a great. I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and
it has a slightly lackluster ending.
Yeah.
Porco Rosso, but
Yeah.
there's so many good one-liners.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's like he's a pig.
Yeah.
So let's just make a bunch of great noir pig lines, which I'm down for that.
Definitely not Miyazaki, but Grave of Fireflies.
Yeah, I need to see that one.
Yeah.
I hear that one's dark.
Oh, it's very dark.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
When I have seen that, I can tell you, it might be one of the weaker Studio Ghibli movies. Is one of the most recent, actually. It's called When Marnie Was There. It's very boring.
Oh, wow.
And
No.
he didn't direct it.
Oh, is that a recent one?
Yeah, it's a slightly Victorian story based on a book. It's very boring, and I saw the subtitle version of that, and they say that Marnie a lot, and it's just a lot of hearing somebody go, Marnie, Marnie.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so here's 3 more that you probably haven't seen.
Okay.
Princess Mononoke?
No, I need to see that.
Okay, you need to see that. That's definitely an epic. That's another epic that's like
I
Spirited
think
Away.
that's coming out with the Fathom Events releases every month this year.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to see all of them. I got tickets to most of them.
Oh, shit.
already.
Okay, cool.
Because I know the first one, I think, is is it the one of about the starts with an N? And it's has some flight idea to it.
I've heard some good and bad stuff about that. You're talking about Nausicaa of the or something like that. Okay, another one that I've seen that's really, really good. My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh yeah, of course, I need to see that one.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's like ultra classic.
Yeah, right. And then there's Kiki's Delivery Service, which
Yeah, I
is
have to
really
see
good.
that too.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm gonna you mentioned The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. That's your antidote to Your Name.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Let's watch. We'll watch that and review it on the beginning of our shows.
So next episode, I will have seen more movies just generally throughout the week.
Yeah. Well, and also, hopefully, you'll have some more time once you get the moving out of the way and get all that.
That's true. I will say, I have seen a lot of short films recently, just in collection through the List Cinema Club, and then I saw a bunch of thesis films at Chapman too, and then some other random stuff online. But, I would say my going into watching both of these movies, I thought that they would just be me comparing the two quote unquote most popular anime films.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is then seeing how Your Name is sort of just a riff on a lot of similar themes in Spirited Away, but how Spirited Away could probably be released now and stand on its own still.
Right.
So
Well, there you go. 2 anime movies, Your Name and Spirited Away, and I think that just about wraps it up.
yeah. So what do you grade episode 2 versus episode 1? You were just
I
getting.
feel a little bit better about this episode.
We had a little more gab.
I think so, yeah. And also,
Yeah.
I'm just not so tired as I was in the last.
The last
fucking
time we recorded the first episode at 4 a.m. in the morning, and he had been up for the past 48 hours,
Yeah.
and I was refreshed. I was doing great. No, but you had been up that day since ridiculous
I
hours.
was. And also, you know what? Another thing, we watched the movie right before. We watched Trainspotting 2 right before.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I was kind of in a kind of a darker mood.
Well, but I wouldn't say that movie put you in a dour.
Yeah, I'm
mood.
just saying, like, it takes a lot out of you watching
Yeah,
a
that's
movie
true.
like that. It's very sensory overload.
Yeah, that's very true.
All right. Well, I think that just about does it for Buffet episode D.
Yep, that's 2 in I don't know. Is that French?
French, I guess. All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye.